Excellent. Very good. Okay, Freddie, are you ready to go? Excellent. Just got one or two more people coming in. As I said in another talk I gave, this is the last boarding call for the evening flight to Nevada. Please come in as soon as you can. Excellent. So let's start with the questions and then see how many we can answer. Dear Ajahn Brahm, may you enlighten us. It's not up to me, it's up to you. Something. Is it that jhana makes you see the everything beautiful? Empirically, we know it. Or only when you reach the fourth jhana, it reveals the nature of a human mind, which is beautiful in itself. Now, this is just one of the ways which a beautiful mind, very peaceful, very still, just looks at the world in a different way. I've mentioned this before, and this has come up in the interviews. Tomorrow, when we do the next sutta class, I will mention it to you again. I'll read it out. That the happiness in meditation was something which was well known in those days. And even when the Buddha went to, not the Buddha, sorry, when King Pasenadi went to the Jeta Grove Monastery, this is in the Dhammachaitya Sutta, when he went to the Jeta Grove Monastery to see the Buddha, he commented why he liked going to that monastery because all the monks were always smiling. And the Buddha said that's what you can expect. When people practice meditation, they develop deep insights. You're naturally happy. But it's also this happiness and this beauty is what the mind adds to things. When it gets to enlightenment, what enlightenment means, I'll quote it in Pali first of all, because these are a few Pali phrases I learned. Samadhi pachayang yatha bhuta yana dasanang, which all you know very well, as I won't embarrass you, it means from that stillness, from the jhanas, you see things as they truly are. In other words, it gives you wisdom as well. We're living in a world which is less than desirable. It's always less than desirable. Would you want to desire a world where you get older and sicker and more pain? So the world is kind of not desirable. But what you mean by less than desirable means it's so easy to see the faults in the world. Not many people can reach the jhana over or even come in contact with it. So practically, we're dealing with people not so beautiful. So how can the beautiful enlightenment people cope? I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but if one is enlightened, if one has deep meditation, you see even little people who are struggling to survive, doing their very best. You see there's something like cute and lovable in that. There may be people misbehaving and doing cruel and nasty things, but you hope that they will learn from that and grow from that, become better as a result of that. Even like animals, in the jungle, they can be so kind and so organized. I say that because one story which came to my mind when I was my 6th rains retreat was spent in a monastery way up in the north of Thailand, close to the Burmese border. And this was such a perfect monastery. It was quiet, and I was the only monk there for the whole 3-month rains retreat. When I asked the villagers why, they said most monks it's too quiet for them. I couldn't believe that. But I was happy with that answer because it meant I could enjoy it all by myself. It was a beautiful, peaceful monastery. But when I was actually there, having a wonderful time, that I remember just leaving some water out for the birds. Just a little bowl of water for them. It was a dry season still, just before the rains retreat started. I left the water out for them, and I used to watch in the afternoon through a little knot hole in the wooden plank which made up my hut. And as I looked there, I saw all these different species of birds queuing up in a line, waiting to bathe. And I couldn't believe that birds of different species, big ones, small ones, different colors, all were very well organized. They were in a line. And they wait for the one at the front to drink and bathe, and then the next one would go in. But of course, there were some birds who came in and went into the water first. They jumped the queue. And then what happened? All the other birds who were standing in line got out of line and they beat up or pecked that bird until it flew away. And once that queue jumper had flown away, then they all go back in line exactly as they were before. I can't believe there were Thai birds. Because the Thai people I knew would never do that. Which showed me that it's amazing how animals, even in the forests, can be very wise and caring and look after one another. The kindness and compassion was there. So sometimes it's more like in the cities that you find people don't care for each other enough. Sometimes it's maybe because we've lost that sense of community. Even in the forest, different species of birds will look after one another. It gave me like hope. Human beings, no matter where you're from, once we get to know each other and trust one another more, I think the caring would come as a result of that. There's nothing to fear and everything to gain. Seeing beautiful people of different species, big, small, female, male, whatever, looking after one another. It was a beautiful example. Could Ajahn explain about the bliss of being an arahant? How many of you are looking forward to your retirement? Good. When you retire, you don't have to get up early to go to work. You don't have to save up any more money. You don't have to deal with other people who want your job, or you don't have to deal with a boss who's always criticizing you. You don't have any stress of trying to do something or sell something which other people don't want. And you've got no temptation to break the precepts through lying. And when you come home in the evening, you don't have to come home in the evening. You're retired. You're having a good time. You're having a good time. That's only physical retirement. Imagine that you retire from the world. Really retire. You've got nothing else which needs to be done. Perfectly at peace. You don't have to worry about sickness or illness because the mind is so much stronger than the body. If you are sick, it's just a little irritation, but not a problem. In fact, there's nothing which is a problem for you anymore. Even old age and struggling to walk, or like the Buddha, struggling to do anything, it's not a big deal anymore. Even the Buddha said that when he needed to, he can always just sit down and go into deep meditation and just leave the body. I mean, not floating through the air, but go into the deep meditation so there was no feeling of the body and pain or anything. And often, such strong meditation, sometimes if you had an ache or a pain, say in your knee, zap, 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 and the pain goes. That's how strong the mind can become. So that would be a pretty happy state to be in, wouldn't it? Would you like that? Nothing to fear, nothing to worry about, just nothing to do, except just being kind to others and teaching them. And every now and again, someone you teach, what you say works, and it heals them. As a monk, I tell you that I don't get any money from the teachings. Any sort of lycee which are given, I don't even see them. They're counted by Gerald or Carol or somebody, and it gets sent to monastery somewhere. I think this time, it's going to go to the retreat centre in Melbourne, which still needs some funding. But that's not how I get paid. How I get paid is when one of you comes up to me and say, Ajahn Brahm, thank you for saving my life. And that's happened many times. One of those times, I was in London giving some talks, and I was on the way from one place to another, going to Oxford to give a talk. And in Paddington Station, I came in the underground. I was going to one of the main line trains to get to Oxford. And I was just walking through the concourse of Paddington Station when this woman came running up to me. She was Afro-English. And she said, Ajahn Brahm. Actually, she didn't say Ajahn Brahm. I remember now. She said, you're the YouTube monk. And I kind of like that. Because, many of my talks, as you know, go on YouTube. I said, what are you doing in Paddington Station? You're supposed to be in Australia. And then she looked at me with these almost like adoring eyes and said, I want to thank you for saving my life. And she said a brief story. She's about in her mid-20s, going through one of the first relationship breakdowns she had to endure. And she said it was just devastating. It was so unfair and cruel to her. She'd invested so much of her life in this relationship with this guy, and he'd let her down. And she went to psychologists and psychiatrists and therapists, but none of them could help. And she was contemplating suicide. And just out of desperation, she got on the internet and got one of my talks. And she listened to the whole of it, 1 hour. And then she listened to another one straight afterwards, and then another was. She binged on Ajahn Brahm talks. But it worked for her. And she said, thank you for saving my life. Now imagine what that means to you. The joy is it's a wonderful purpose in life, to help people literally save their life. That's the words they said. That's my payment. The joy when you can say something or do something and teach something which really works for people. You can't expect to change the life of everybody. There's a lot of people you have done. That's my payment. That's what the bliss of being, a good monk who people listen to, and just you can help people. Imagine what that feels like. That's pretty cool. I remembered your hissing snake story. Still, I'm struck with, the hissing snake story? This is a story adapted from the Jataka tales of the Buddha. There was once upon a time a snake who was a very bad snake. He was mean, vicious. He would bite people just for fun. His fun, that is, not other people's fun. There's some people like that. So the really bad snake, people knew where he lived and always were scared of him because he could bite for no reason at all. But then when snakes get old, even snakes wonder what happens to snakes after they die. Is there such a thing as reincarnation? Do bad snakes go to hell, or do good snakes go to some heaven realm somewhere? There's always lots of mice. And so the snake started to get interested in religion. He didn't know, but then again, he had heard that not far away was a holy snake. And a holy snake lived up in the mountain because that's where holy people are supposed to live. I never hear of holy people living in swamps, except for Yoda. That's right, Yoda lives in a swamp. He's the exception. Usually holy people live on mountains or something. So he decided to go and visit this holy snake. But he didn't want to lose his reputation. You know what it's like that some people don't like going to see any religious people. It embarrasses them. So the bad snake put on a big overcoat, dark glasses, and a hat so he could go incognito. And when, and when the bad snake crawled up, to where the holy snake was, the bad snake was just surprised. There was lots of little snakes sitting in front of the holy snake, listening to everything he said. And then the bad snake, he sat close to the door so he could escape, if he didn't like what was being said. Is that why you're sitting next to the door, Gerald? So then when the bad snake started to listen, what the holy snake said made a lot of sense. It was reasonable. So first of all, the bad snake got interested. Then the bad snake got inspired. And then the bad snake was converted. And so he took off his disguise, went up to the holy snake, bowed 3 times. And then people were shocked that such a bad snake was now paying respect to the holy snake. And the holy snake gave him the 5 precepts. So the bad snake could change his ways. And the bad snake just bowed again. And before he left, the bad snake made a donation in the box. He put coins in the box because coins sound louder than pieces of paper. And now he was going to be a good snake. So he went back to where he lived, and he decided he can't bite anybody ever again. That's breaking his precepts. And he even, on his chest there, he wore a Greenpeace sign. He was really a good snake from now on. But the snakes can't speak. So he couldn't tell all the villagers he was now a good snake. They didn't know. They still jumped away when they saw him. Even when he was sitting cross-coiled in deep meditation, they still avoided him. But soon the message got spread around. The snake was no longer dangerous. So people would just walk past him and he would just smile and give them loving kindness instead of a bite. But then a few of the kids in the village, the young boys, they wanted to have some fun with this snake. So they looked at him and said, "Why don't you bite anybody anymore? You're such you're not, used to be scary. We were scared of you, but now you must be scared of others. Are you really a snake or are you an oversized worm? You're a disgrace to your species. That's what you are." And they called him a creep. That was actually correct. Snakes are creeps. That's not how they get around. But the way they said it was really cruel. And that snake, he was very powerful and very strong. And he said, "I could bite one of these boys so easily, but they keep on criticizing me and abusing me." Well, what could the snake do? He had the 5 precepts. He couldn't kill anybody. So he just took the abuse, endured it. And then the boys started throwing things at the snake. First of all, like clods of earth, and then sticks and a couple of stones. And when they hit the snake, that really hurt. And then they even came closer with sticks and started beating that snake. And that really hurt. And the snake knew that I could bite any one of those kids. Because of these silly 5 precepts, I have to endure this. So he took the beating, and afterwards, he patched himself up with a few band-aids or whatever, and then he crawled painfully up to the holy snake to get released from his 5 precepts. When the holy snake saw him coming, all bandaged and bruised, the holy snake said, "What happened to you?" And the bad snake said, "It's all your fault. It's okay for you living up in the mountain. People protect you. For us snakes who live in the world, you can't keep the 5 precepts. I've got to bite people just to protect myself. Look what happened to me, when I keep the 5 precepts." And the holy snake said, "Oh, you stupid snake." "What do you mean, stupid snake? You're the one who's stupid, holy snake." "You stupid snake," said the holy snake. "It's true. I told you not to bite people, but I never told you not to hiss." And that's all the snake needed to do to protect himself. But don't bite. And then the kids would run away. And that's the story I tell often. As people in the world, don't get angry at others. There's no need to sort of punch anybody, but you can hiss. What do I mean by that? Did I tell you that story when I went from my mother's house, when I was a monk visiting, walking towards the Sri Lankan Vihara in London? And I went down one of the roads, so I should have known better, past one of these housing estates, which the police called a hotbed of crime. And this was late in the afternoon, evening. And as I came close, as I was walking down the road, there was a group of these kids who were congregating, looking for something to do. They were bored. And when they saw me coming with a bald head and a brown robe, they decided to have some fun. I was totally outnumbered. There was about a dozen of them, maybe about 17, 18 years of age. And they saw me and they started chanting, "Buddha, Buddha, Buddha," getting louder and louder the closer I came. And the Buddhas got closer together. "Buddha, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha." They were trying to intimidate me. I grew up in this area. I knew all the ways to get to the Sri Lankan Vihara, where I was supposed to give a talk. I could have crossed to the other side of the street, turned around and gone another route. But I thought, no, I'm a monk. I'm not going to retreat and show fear. So what I did, I carried on walking towards them. And as I get closer, "Buddha, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha," tried to intimidate me. And as I got closer, I lifted up my hands into what looked like a kung fu position. I've never practiced kung fu in my life. The only time I've seen this was in that old TV series called Kung Fu with David Carradine as Grasshopper. I saw that before I became a monk. I looked the part, bald head, brown robe, walking towards him without fear, the Kung Fu master. You know what happened? Sometimes I really pushed the envelope. If I was smarter, I wouldn't have done that. I could have got into real big trouble doing this pose. They parted. and they let me right through. None of them was brave enough to test me and find out I was totally fake. That's true, that happened. Anyway, the hissing snake thing, that was my version of hissing. Just assume a pose, which can scare somebody else. Does anyone do Kung Fu here? You don't admit it, okay. But anyway, I don't know if anyone really knew Kung Fu, whether they would just either attack me or just burst out laughing. But anyway, I got away with it. So, the hissing snake story. Still, I'm struggling with people's abuse of my kindness. Of your kindness? What about your kindness to yourself as well as the kindness to others? So, put some boundaries around yourself. Be kind to others, but also please, please, please be kind to yourself as well. You know, I did my very best in the interviews this afternoon, but I must admit, when I finished those interviews, I was kind of exhausted. So I went up to my room, I just lay down, and I had a rest for about half an hour. Then got up, made myself a cup of tea, and then come down here. I know how to be kind to myself. When I need it, I will practice it. Please, the same for you. If I had just decided, well, I'm going to meditate instead of going up to my room, then I would have got even more tired. Because even just walking from that room over to here, I've got to pass many of you. Say, oh, Ajahn Brahm, are you free? Can I ask you a question? So this is one of the reasons why that I know how to look after myself, and I find some solitude where no one can bother me, and I can find some peace and stillness and regenerate my energies. Gerald, you saw me last, after those interviews. Do I look different now? You bet. I'm energized again, ready to go. Give me another question. So make sure your kindness always goes to yourself as well as others. And if these other people abuse you because of your kindness, even when my intention for kindergarten job, they said I'm too kind. They prefer another candidate because she is more spicy. That's what they call it here, spicy. Must be more sort of aggressive. But what about those kids? You know, people working in the kindergarten, they should have kids representatives to choose who's going to teach them instead of people. Anyway, does none also need to be spicy? Can you please advise? What does spicy mean? I know kimchi is spicy. But anyhow, if that's what people think is important to work in the kindergarten, then I wouldn't like to work there at all, because the people are just, I don't know what they're really doing. What does a kid need in a kindergarten? They're away from their mother, they're away from their father. What they need more than anything else is just the kindness, so they feel safe there. I was only worked for 1 year at a school, but all the kids who misbehaved, you could see they were just looking for some emotional support, people to understand them, be kind to them. They were suffering. And when you were kind to them, that meant so much to them. I remember the naughtiest kid in my class was the only one who wrote to me after I became a monk. That was weird. You sure he understood the reason he was naughty? He was having a very difficult time at home. And this teacher was being kind and caring for him. And that's why he wrote to me. I was kind of like that. At CUHK, the Chinese University, Hong Kong, you shared how manage mother relationship, better use a person who my mum listens to the most. That was in order to influence people in a difficult relationship. And a woman with her mother or a man with her mother, that mother's brought you up, looked after you when you were very, very small. The psychology of that relationship is the mother teaches the child, not the other way around. And I often quote the story of Sariputta, the wisest monk after the Buddha. He went to visit his mother just before he passed away. And when he came up to his, Sariputta was supposed to be about 80 years of age. And when he went to visit his mother, who's still alive, his mother said, "You again, son, when are you going to get a proper job? Instead of coming here with all your mates and friends and just, getting food for me and a place to stay." He could not teach his mother. The relationship is much different. I could never teach my mother. Some other monks could easily, but not me, because the psychology of a mother-son or father-daughter relationship is just too strong. It's very hard to change. So what we do, we always use the sneaky way. You get somebody else. If my mother was still alive and I wanted to teach her Dhamma, teach her Buddhism or meditation, I'd get Ajahn Chah to go and visit her. She would listen to him if she was still alive, but not to me. So you always go somewhere else, the roundabout way. However, I still feel sad seeing her making herself suffering, e.g. back pain, but still something a lot. I don't know a lot. If still has a lot of discontent, unnecessary thing. Even tried to make me suffer too, as I refused to carry her as I have back pain also. Why I'm sad is why I understand it is her life. How I don't suffer because of her. Look, when you do see your mum, be kind to her. How many of you have read that book, Opening the Door of Your Heart? In that book, I included a poem about how to love your mother. It said, even though your mother is always asking for things and demanding things, don't get angry at her, because the day will come when she's not there to ask anymore. Always be kind. It goes something like that. And the only reason, it's a beautiful poem, and the only reason I include it in my book is because of the author. The author, no joke, was Adolf Hitler. His love for his mother was almost legendary. And he wrote this beautiful poem, how to endure, the difficulty of looking after her. She's your only mum. So look after her to the max. And when I first read that, wow, I never expected that from a man named the real Adolf Hitler, but it's true. But anyhow, look after her as much as you can, but care for yourself. You have limits too. And just care for yourself. You've done the very best you possibly can. Probably more than what you should have done. That is enough. A lot of times a mother may criticize you, but then that's just the way she expresses her love to you. But when you're a mum and you're very old and people try and help you, please accept their help. If someone says to me, Ajahn Brahm, you've seen you having trouble getting up, Have you got a bad leg? Is there something which I can do to help you? Often I would say, okay, yes, can you bring me this or bring me that, even though I don't need it. And the reason I say that, it's nice that you can show your kindness to someone you care about. So often I may sort of cough and then say, Ajahn Brahm, here is some cough medicine for you. Oh, thank you so much. And I take it to my room and give it to someone else. But I'll accept it first of all. That's one of the other fun things about being a monk. Even in UK, I do not wear socks. Even if it's cold. Even when I was a student, I didn't wear socks. I've got really good circulation. Honestly. And even when I was in South Korea, we had this meeting up in the mountains. And we were supposed to do this holy walk. And at the end of the walk, we were going to put our handprint on this rock and have some, whatever it was, to make a proper imprint on the rock. And Ajahn Chah was supposed to go with me. But it was so cold, minus 16 degrees outside in the snow, that Ajahn Chah had a doctor with him and refused to let him go on this walk with me. So we had two monks go on this walk in the snow, myself and this other senior meditating monk of the dogshit tradition. And I found out when we did our handprint, he only had 3 fingers in his hand. You know what happened to the other 2 fingers? He burnt them off by holding it over a candle. That's, a lot of endurance. So he was supposed to be a really tough monk, but he was wearing socks. And I was happy. It wasn't endurance, I just had good circulation. And as we were doing this walk, we're supposed to be mindful. It was televised, on national TV or whatever it was. And soon, it's really weird. I was just walking, minding my own business, enjoying the walk in the snow. And all these TV cameras, well, they weren't looking at me. They were looking at my feet. Bare feet in the, using the Birkenstock sandals, but, no socks on. And they thought that was really weird. Apparently, I came out of that TV show as a tougher monk than the monk who burns off his own fingers. It's totally untrue. But nevertheless, he don't wear socks. So what happened? This old lady in Perth, she said, I see you haven't got any socks. Can I please offer some socks to you? And of course I refused. I accept them. And then I put them on. And during the talk I was giving one Friday evening, I was sitting like this. And during the talk, she was sitting to my right. I moved my body, adjusted my position. and stuck my foot out. And in the corner of my eye, I was kind of looking if she noticed. And then I saw her turn to her friend. He's wearing my socks. He's wearing my socks. And that was so cute. After I finished the talk, I took them off and put them in the cupboard for somebody else to wear. But nevertheless, I wore them not to keep my feet warm, but out of kindness to somebody else. Why not do that? So she was abusing me because I don't wear socks. I'm more comfortable without them. But nevertheless, there's a slight degree of abuse having to wear her socks, but I did it. And that's quite kind of nice. Somebody gives you a gift which you don't want. Thank you. Thank you for giving me that. You know that one of the weirdest gifts that somebody gave me on a birthday was a comb. What do you give me a comb for? I got no hair. But you accept it and give it to somebody else. So again, have fun, laugh a lot, do funny, stupid things. Then you find it's hard to get angry. Those two cannot coexist, fun and anger. And that's why when anybody gets angry at me, sometimes I try and crack a joke about it, have some fun about it, and just they can't get angry anymore. Anyway, may I know what would be the ultimate purpose of achieving the 4 stages of jhana? It's full enlightenment is the ultimate purpose. We may be able to see the beauty in the poop, in the shit, or the tastiness of a baked bean after meditation for a short period of time, but how can we apply the benefits of it to everyday life? Again, you are able to see things which other people have never seen before, which you've never seen before. You have more data. And the other thing about the jhanas is afterwards, you have, for want of a better word, someone called it the afterglow. And the afterglow is when the 5 hindrances vanish for a long period of time. You're not distorting anything by what you want to see or what you don't want to see, or by sloth and torpor. It's gone. Restlessness, gone. Doubt, gone. I didn't mention that the other day. Anybody who uses his deep meditation to access previous lives, are you making this up? Your memories of previous lives? If you access these previous lives because of meditation, after meditation, you don't have any doubt at all. That 5th hindrance is gone. So what you see, you know is true. And lastly, you also overcome arati, which is discontent, and weariness. I read this little joke the other day, somebody sent to me. The elderly people often talk about how tired they are. Okay, I've talked about tiredness, but I'm not always tired. I'm full of energy right now. Are you tired? Weary? Some of you are. Some of you having some nice meditation, you find that that's something which disappears. You can be engaged in this world. And because of those 5 hindrances are gone, you can be engaged in what you've just experienced in these deep meditations. What were they? What do they mean? And that's actually where you get the power and the data to become fully enlightened. That's why this is part of the Eightfold Path. That's how you benefit. You get out of everyday life and don't need to come back again. You graduated. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Some fellows are confused that why the lunch is served after 12 noon and why there will be conge in the afternoon. But the application form says that this is an 8-precept retreat. We thank the organizer for all the amazing food, but some fellows are honestly confused. I remember just going to this one ceremony. Some people were keeping 8 precepts, some keeping 5 precepts, but some people were keeping 13 precepts. You know what the 13 precepts are? The 13 precepts are 5 precepts in the morning, 8 precepts in the morning and 5 precepts in the afternoon. This is human nature. Any way of getting around these rules. If there is a possible way of distorting them, you do. And even in Thailand, I remember seeing people keeping the 5 precepts. They put their hands up in Anjali, one finger down. When I was there, I'd never seen that before. But this happened after I left, after Ajahn Chah passed away. What do people mean when they got one finger down? I asked them. That means today we're only keeping 4 precepts. And then some of them had all the fingers down. I don't know what they were doing in the temple. But with precepts, sometimes it's up to each one of us to know how many precepts we can follow and how to follow them and the best way of following them. Many people are coming here and keeping 8 precepts. Well done. Some of you can't keep 8 precepts because you're old or you're sick, you've got stomach problems or other problems, and you find out you can do much better by having the conche in the afternoon. Fine. So the point is we shouldn't criticize anybody if they have the conche in the afternoon or you have the lunch served at 12 o'clock. And anyway, the rule is, if you want to be strict about it, you have to finish eating before solar noon. And I checked that out before I came here because I knew that sometimes, having food with people in restaurants and stuff, sometimes they don't open until 12. But here in Hong Kong, the solar noon is about 12:30. 12:30. That's in the sun is highest in the sky. So if you have your lunch at 12 o'clock, 12 noon is when it's served here, and you finish by 12:30, you're keeping that rule about eating in the morning time. You're maintaining your 8 precepts. But also what I do over in Bodhinyana or in Dhammaloka, every time that we have a meeting and there's a lot of lay people there, I do ask, how many of you are keeping 8 precepts today? And if you're keeping 8 precepts, please go and take your food first of all. Doesn't matter how old, young, what gender you are, but if you're on 8 precepts, please eat first. So you can get your bowl filled and eat in half an hour. So please let those, I think you may know who's keeping 8 precepts and who isn't. Please let them go first. And those who are keeping 8 precepts, please make sure you go first so you're not holding up the traffic for others. Is that okay? Just out of kindness. And sometimes, people find it difficult not to eat something in the afternoon or evening. They have bad tummies. And that's the case as a lay person. If you need to eat something in the afternoon, please eat something, but don't eat anything really fancy, not a 9-course meal, but just eat something simple to enable you to have a comfortable stomach in the evening. Is that okay? Okay. Can citta talk to each other, or they rely on 5 senses like mouth, eye, contact to talk? You mean one citta talking to another citta? That's called mind reading. Mind reading does happen. But please don't feel afraid. Some people say, Ajahn Brahm, can you read our minds? I'm being honest. Some of your minds are not worth reading. It's hardly Dostoevsky or... It's true. Remember Ajahn Chah doing that to me. The one time he read my mind, and I really accepted him reading my mind. I was very proud of my mind. Just come out of a deep meditation. You could feel him. It's weird, but it's almost like you can feel he was reading your mind. I gave him full permission. This is my teacher. I trusted him. And I was actually proud for once. A lot of time, he wouldn't read my mind anyway because it was not worth it. But it's an invasion of privacy. I'm a monk, but I was also brought up in the West. And you can feel that's unethical to read another person's mind. So I will not do that. Because it's not fair on you. And if you do it, it makes you scared. You won't want to come on any retreats. If I read somebody's mind and say, that was true. Oh my goodness, what am I doing? So that is something which can be done, but you don't do it. And somebody was asking me about, I forget where, I give so many talks, about that monk who ordains trees. Where was that? That was in Hong Kong University. Oh, Professor Harkis, yeah, that was a couple of days ago. But I know the monk who ordains trees in north of Thailand, I know the princess who assists her. And that princess, known nickname as Noonie, that she was really interested in meditation. And so she went to this meditation session once a week in this monastery called Wat Pawan in Thailand. And it was led by an Indonesian monk who I knew. And this Indonesian monk was the real deal. He did have psychic powers. He's passed away now, which is why I don't mind talking about him. And she was meditating like you were meditating together for 45 minutes or an hour. And she felt there's something weird going on. She opened her eyes. She's a person I've known for so many years. I trust her 100%. She doesn't lie. And she told me she opened her eyes and she saw from this monk these lights, one light coming out of each eye, going in to this meditator who had her eyes closed. It was like, you may see in some movies of special effects, but this was real. This wasn't a movie. This was real. It had these lights coming out from each eyeball, going into this woman. Her response, the first time she's ever seen something, a real, legitimate psychic power, she got so scared, she got up from her seat and she never went back. That's what happens. People say, yeah, Ajahn Brahm, can you please show us a psychic power? Do something. And the answer is always no, because it scares everything of you. Something which you've never seen before. And also, it's beyond your comprehension. And that's really scary. Is breath meditation the only gateway to jhanas? No. Is it possible that you get into jhanas directly without going through the breath meditation? Yes. Sometimes you just fluke it. Sometimes you let go so deeply. Okay, this is the story of the novice monk listening to one of Ajahn Chah's talks. He was only about 11 or 12 years of age. So sometimes I have these young novices in monasteries in Thailand. The monasteries become a social safety net. So usually the young men, they stay as a novice till about 16 or 17, 18. They get an education in the monastery, go to the nearest school. But when they get to 16 or 17, they go to a bigger school and then they just disrobe. It's just where they grow up. So this novice, only 11 or 12, was listening to one of Ajahn Chah's Dhamma talks. And his Dhamma talks, sometimes they were amazing, but often they were just so boring. And this was going on for a long time. And this little novice was bored out of his little head. He said, I'm only a small novice. Maybe the other monks can listen to Ajahn Chah, but why do I have to? And then he got so negative, he started to think, when is Ajahn Chah going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And he kept on repeating this almost like a mantra to himself. When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? When is he going to stop? And then in just a moment, he turned the question around. When am I going to stop? And that little novice stopped. He entered a beautiful jhana, a bliss state. And when he next opened his eyes, he was perfectly aware all this time, blissfully aware. It was the early morning. He'd been meditating there for hours. He hadn't heard all those monks do their bowing, the last bit of chanting, and moving all of their stuff and going back to their huts. He'd even missed the morning alms round. But he didn't mind at all going without food that day. He just got this beautiful meditation for the first time in his life. He didn't use breath meditation. He just used stop. And he stopped. That's why when people say, you go to some cities, you see all these signs of Christianity, all these crucifixes, crosses everywhere. Where are the signs of Buddhism in Hong Kong? You can see them at every crossroad. Stop. I claim those signs for Buddhism. Question regarding restraint 5 hindrances. Is this can be achieved through meditation, or how should we restrain before then we can be mindful? Precepts are the solution. It's not just precepts. The Eightfold Path can be looked on as a sequence. Once you can have some really perfect or close to perfect right view, especially that we meditate not to get things but to let go of things. There's no one here who can get harmed. There's no one who needs to amass more things. We want to let go of things. And from that right view, you get what I call the next stage of the Eightfold Path, right motivation. Motivation of renouncing things, having less things. Motivations of kindness. Motivations of gentleness. Those are the 3 right motivations, the second factor of the Eightfold Path. Once those are pretty strong, all the precepts become natural. You never say anything which is going to be mean to anybody or lie. You just can't do it because the views and the motivations to lie are just not there. And you never do anything by the body which will harm anybody ever. And you'll never have a wrong livelihood. You can't do those things. Your precepts become natural. And from there, we go to the next factor of the Eightfold Path, samavayama. And I refuse to call it right effort. It's more like right renunciation. From those precepts, you take it deeper to sense restraint. And once that sense restraint is there, then the 5 hindrances get so weak. You can just do that last bit of restraint, And that becomes the mindfulness practices, the Satipatthana. By this time, your mindfulness is strong. It's not ordinary mindfulness. And it's also effortless. You're just aware. You can't help it. So the Eightfold Path is the solution. It just happens naturally. As you're a monk, or you're a lay person on a retreat, you become more and more mindful. You can't, it's just what happens. It's a natural. You water a flower, it grows. Actually, not a flower, when it's, say, a sapling. I've chronic disease which affect my normal life, work and family. I stopped work for 2 years. I would like to work and contribute for the family and society, but I feel struggling with sickness despite I have been meditating and medical treatment during this time, plus stop work. Any advice? Many thanks in advance. What to do for my life? If you have a chronic disease, it depends what that chronic disease is. But often, what the doctors say is untreatable, people treat successfully with things like meditation. I've already told the story of the guy who had a sinus cancer and he was dying. No way he should have been able to get cured, but he had a wonderful life afterwards. I've also mentioned that 2 of the monks who I ordained have schizophrenia. And that shouldn't be able to be a monk with schizophrenia. Sometimes all these diseases which people have, you may think that they are chronic. They last for a long time, but nothing lasts forever. So, if you have a chronic disease, it means you can't go to work, then don't go to work. Meditate instead. You have the time. Well done. And as you meditate, you get to understand and learn about your body more. And it's fantastic. What your body can do to heal itself is amazing. And there are things like Chinese medicine. Please excuse me, I reckon are much better than Western medicine. Developed over so many years. And it works on the different aspects of the body. If you break your leg, yeah, go to hospital, get Western medicine. But these other chronic diseases, how about trying some herbal medicine, Chinese medicine? There's so much on offer there. And also doing some meditation as well. Getting your mind to help out with some of these diseases. Don't think you need to go to work. You'll be this great example of somebody heals themselves, and then you can help others. Be some counselor for Chinese medicine or something. Does blessing from holy monk work? I was blessed by you back in March 2020 when I visited Perth. For never got infected by COVID, and it works. Even my mother who lives with me got infected, but I didn't. Is it coincidence? What do you think? Honestly, why would I do this if it didn't have success sometimes? It's not just people, machines. I don't know how this works as a physicist, a scientist, but you know that once, I'll tell a couple of stories, they're interesting. Once I was just walking back from doing a blessing at some person's house, and our youth group, our Buddhist youth group, were all congregating around this car parked in front of our center in Nolamara. When I came close, what had happened is that they'd finished their little meeting with one of the other monks, And now they were going to the beach. They were young people, just enjoying their lives. But the boot of their car was locked and they could not open it. They'd been trying for about half an hour or 45 minutes to open the boot of their car. Nothing worked. Then one of these women, her name was Ronnie, she said, "Oh, here comes Ajahn Brahm. He can open the boot of our car. Ajahn Brahm, please, your psychic powers to open the boot of our car." And I've known this woman for a long time. And I know she'd make an excellent bhikkhuni. So I said, "I'll open the boot of the car if you promise to be a bhikkhuni, to ordain." And she thought I couldn't do it. So she said, "Okay." So I took the key, put it in the car, turned it once, and it opened straight away. And she screamed, "Oh no! I don't really want to be a nun. I'm too young." She wasn't too young, but that's what ladies say. And then what happened next? Unfortunately for me, in that group, one of the young people in our group was a lawyer. And she said, yes, she promised to become a nun, but she never said when. Yeah. So she got away with that. So yeah, some of these chants actually work. That's why you do them. Surprises me. I don't know how they work, but they do. But please don't harass me after this. Ajahn Brahm, can you please chant for this person, chant for that person, chant for somebody else? And crikey, I get so worn out, won't be able to help anybody. I'll have to start chanting for myself. Sorry. Sometimes the dog in the cockpit doesn't do its job and bites me. I've been kept wanting to do things. How to train my dog better? Thank you. After a while, when the dog behaves, the both of you have a much happier meditation. So you learn by trial and error, a lot of time by experience, what happens when you just sit here and just don't do anything. That guy who had the sinus cancer, he got his first popping of that sinus cancer, could breathe again, only for a minute, but then that was the start. He got that at the last meditation he did when we'd actually formally closed the retreat. There was another lady from Malaysia. She was on one of the retreats I was teaching in Phuket, Khao Lak or something, in Thailand. We'd finished the retreat. She'd put a lot of effort into the retreat, but got nowhere. And then her flight back to KL was late in the afternoon, so she had nothing to do for 1 hour. She went back into the hall, in her own words, to kill time. She got nowhere for 9 days. She just went in there to kill time. And when she came out of her meditation, it's totally unforgettable for me. I was having an apple juice or something at a table, and she knelt before me, looked up in my eyes and said, "Oh, Ajahn Brahm, Ajahn Brahm, oh, at last, oh." She had her first deep meditation. She is now one of the bhikkhunis at Dharmasala. That really was an amazing experience for her. And the most important part of that, for the first time over those 9 days, she wasn't trying anymore. She'd given it everything she got and nothing worked. Now she let go. So please, next time you meditate, just meditate to kill time. Don't try and do anything. What does deep meditation feel like? Can I be honest? The greatest bliss you've ever experienced in your lives. Maybe you only remember the bliss of this life, but this is a bliss of totally different proportions. Oh, that's why afterwards you experience that, you come up and say, "Oh, Ajahn Brahm, oh." And to me, that's really cute when people have this wonderful afterglow. You may tell me what you experience, and you may say that, oh, it's beautiful, peaceful meditation. But that emotional afterglow, if it's not there, I'm sorry, it's not the real thing. Dear Ajahn Brahm, I would like to learn more on our relationship with anger. Thank you so much. With anger, I don't know where people get this response from of getting angry. Sometimes it comes from frustration, because often you want something which the world can't give you. You may get angry at your partner, not realizing that your wife can't give this to you. Your husband can't supply this. This is our world. Why get angry? Sometimes we get angry, I'm getting controversial here, of politics. Sometimes politicians can't give that to you. That's the way the world is. We try to make it better, but sometimes we get frustrated. We put so much effort into it, and life seems to be so unfair. See the bigger picture. Life is not unfair. Even this prisoner many years ago, I used to go and teach in jail. He came up to me and said, Ajahn Brahm, can I just have a private interview for 5 minutes? Yeah, sure. He said, the crime which I was put in jail for, I didn't do. I didn't do that robbery. Look, I'm being honest with you, Ajahn Brahm. You've known me for a while now. I know other prisoners might say this, but honestly, I didn't do that theft. It wasn't me. And I trusted him. And so I thought, I noticed how little access some of these very poor prisoners have to lawyers or anyone to help them. But I know a few people. Maybe I can sort of fight his case for him. And as I was thinking who I would call as soon as I got back to my monastery, he gave me such a cheeky grin. And he said, it's true, I never did that theft for which I was put in jail, but I did so many other thefts where I wasn't caught. I guess this is fair. The law of karma. Sometimes if you see all the things you got away with, that you weren't sort of hurt by, and you see the things that did hurt you, then you may start to wonder, maybe life is fair. The law of karma just balances these things out. That also became one of my other sayings, which you may have seen on t-shirts. I'm not sure how this goes in Hong Kong, but in Australia, people love this saying. There's no need to seek for revenge, because karma will get the bastards anyway. If you're angry at somebody, they've really hurt you, you don't need to try and hurt them back. Let karma deal with the problem. That's a lovely way just to be peaceful. Is it okay to be crying? Yes. And I mention this because personally, there's sometimes I burst out crying. I don't know, going to India on pilgrimage, there's one of the Buddha statues I always wanted to see, real face to face. And that's the one at Sanat outside of Benares. It's a beautiful Buddha statue. You can see it. It's a Dhammachakra Buddha statue. You can see it on the front cover of many magazines. So when I first went to Sanat outside of Benares, yeah, we had the tour around this and that, but then I thought, I want to go in the museum to see the Buddha statue. It's in there somewhere. But because it was India, there was no entrance fee and there was no guards, no one to tell you where is what. So I went looking for it for a while, and I turned the corner at the end of the gallery was that Buddha statue. It was totally unexpected. I just burst out crying. It was beautiful. It wasn't negative emotions, it's emotions of pity, sukha, huge. They just made me cry. The next time I went there, I was prepared. So I said, I'll restrain myself. I went with a big crowd of people from many countries. When I turned that corner, I knew where it was now. I thought, I'm not going to cry. I'm not. The tears just flew. And the third time, I said, I'm going to allow myself to cry. Just trying to suppress these things doesn't work. And I told all the people with me, if I burst out crying, it's just pity sukha. It's just I can't help myself. There's some connection with that statue, which is so beautiful. At least to me anyway, that I just can't help it. And then when we turned the corner, I had the tissues ready. And then I found that statue was covered with a tarpaulin. And above it, there was a painter painting the ceiling. And I thought I'd come all the way from Australia, really looking forward to this, and now I'm not going to see it. Oh, that was so disappointing. And then the painter looked at me, just an Indian painter, and then he took the tarpaulin and removed it. That was kind of beautiful. I love that. And there was a similar story. There was this Australian lady. No, sorry, she was English with her English husband. There was a member of our Buddhist society, came on pilgrimage with us to India. Actually, at this time, he was a Buddhist and she was an Anglican Christian. So in the just preparation for this trip to the holy sites, I told them that some of these holy sites are very powerful energy. You may, like me, just burst out crying or feel just emotionally incredible power. And she told me, said, look, I'm English. I've been to so many castles and palaces and old monuments, so much older than whatever was in India. Been to Stonehenge, which is thousands of years old. What's the big deal about crying, having energy? Because he was a Christian. But apparently that the first night landing in Bodh Gaya or Gaya, wherever it was, we went to visit the Mahabodhi temple where the Buddha was enlightened. And as soon as she walked in the gate of the Bodh Gaya temple, she cried her eyes out. And that was totally unexpected. And then she just came to my room with her husband and said, can I ask forgiveness of you, Ajahn Brahm? I thought you were a crazy monk, but what you said was true. I got emotionally so empowered being in there. She's now a very devout Buddhist. So be crying? Yes, please do. Even at one of my retreats, there was this Australian man. He came from the bush somewhere in Australia, and when he was meditating, he started crying. And he said, what's going on? What am I crying for? Just tears started coming. And I asked him straight away, when was the last time you cried? And he paused. I'd hit a button there somewhere. He said, I think when I was about 13. And my father told me, Australian men don't cry. And he'd suppressed it for so many years. He was about 35 or something. And I said, you have a lot of crying to catch up on. And he cried so much on that retreat. He was single. And he got so many proposals to be his girlfriend at the end of that retreat. If you're single and want a girlfriend, start crying on this retreat. You'll be amazed just how attractive that will be. Am I correct? Ladies? If work for him. Do we know the reason why we're angry before the dog shit transforms? No. The dog shit transforms if you know the reason behind it or not. But a lot of time it's just expectations. And you're tense. It's so hard to get angry when you're rested. If you have a good sleep, you don't have work to do for a few days, you go on a holiday, it's hard to get angry afterwards. You can't do it. Even some people deserve to be angry at, sort of. You just can't do it. You're just too at peace. Why destroy the peace in your heart by getting angry? Could we be looking for reasons to be angry? And if so, why do we do that? Because you're tired and frustrated. You rest. If we sent Mr. Putin on holiday to Jhāna Grove, that would solve the problem in the Middle East. Oh, no, in Ukraine. That's my theory. If you would cooperate. Do you agree with that? So we'll do. Can we use some of the donations to offer him a flight ticket to? Sorry, I'm being naughty. Chinese proverbs say, if we don't owe each other in the previous lives, we do not need to meet each other in this life. That's not fair. So, because you meet me in this life, does that mean that I owe you something? Or you owe me? No. If we're having a chance to meet each other, we must something that owe each other. No, I don't agree with that. It's not that we owe each other. It's just sometimes we've been friends before, and that friendship kind of draws you together. Not owing anything. It's not a financial transaction, being reborn. It's just a learning from one another. Or sometimes it is. You know, one of my friends does hypnotic regressions. One of the weirdest regressions he had, there was this husband and wife. They're having a difficult relationship together. So he did regression of both of them. And the husband said in his previous life he was quite a bad man. It's not in this life, but in the previous life. One of the worst things he did was late at night, he was hiding behind a pillar somewhere in San Francisco. And this beautiful girl came out and he slit her throat to kill her. That's his previous life. And once he'd come out of regression, then he hypnotized his wife. And his wife said, in her story, she hadn't listened to his story. In her story, she said she was a young journalist working in San Francisco, and she worked late, and when she came out of the office to go home, somebody jumped on her and slit her throat. They were now husband and wife, the victim and the murderer. Of course, that surprised both of them. They had trouble in their relationship, but they loved each other. In this life, he was kind. But you can understand it's almost as if they decided, let's meet in our next life so we can learn how to work these things out. So we don't need to seek for revenge. We can be husband and wife and learn how to accept the differences in each one of us and not get angry and upset. It was weird. I don't know who you're married to, but you know what he did in the previous life, what she did? After listening to today's sutta teachings, it seems to me that reaching a different level of jhana requires too long meditation. I have a daily meditation practice of only 24 minutes. Does that mean I need to have longer meditations? It's not a needs-based thing. That sometimes you actually come on a retreat and you have much longer time. And sometimes you come and start meditation in the morning, and then I sort of give a talk or something, but you carry on meditating. And it comes a time when you're meditating, you can't hear what I say. Just sort of that little novice. When is Ajahn Brahm going to stop? You say, when am I going to stop? You just turn around. It may be hard to understand this, but it's true. The difference between how you're feeling now and a jhana, they're so close together. But you know the difference because when you let go and go into these jhanas, the five senses vanish and you really bliss out. Any of you can do it. Most of you won't because you do too much. Can you repeat which sutta that you mentioned in second day morning about Buddha saying, good posture meditation is control free? Please, kindly the name of the sutra. Thank you. That, I don't know the name of the sutta, but I can find it for you afterwards. Actually, I don't have the suttas here, but maybe we can find it later on for you. If you want to try and find it for yourself, see if you can go on something like Sutta Central and look for the quote, the Buddha smiles. Because there's only a few times the Buddha smiled, and that was one of them. How can I help my mother to conquer her fear of falling death? Of faking. Oh, facing death. Conquer her fear of facing death. I don't know how old your mother is, but if she's ever done any meditation, she knows what death is. Death is like a nice release for her. Imagine that on this retreat, I will give a prize for someone who asked the best question. And the prize would be a first-class ticket return to, say, Los Angeles for you and your partner, and a stay for 1 week in a 6-star hotel in Los Angeles, $1,000 each per day, shopping spending money, and every evening you have dinner with your favorite movie star, a different favorite movie star every evening, whichever one you want. And then you win that prize. And it's for real. And I say that, you can go to Los Angeles in 2 weeks' time. Would you be excited you've won that prize? Would you be looking forward to it and counting down the days? Only 1 week to go. Only 4 days to go. Only 2 days to go. 1 day to go. And you'll be so excited when you go on that plane. First class. Oh, actually, the Singapore Airlines now does suites class. Even better. And when you actually wouldn't you be excited? Which is better? Going on such a fully paid holiday with spending money to Los Angeles or going to heaven? Why is it you've only got 2 weeks to live, according to the doctor, and you're going to go to heaven, you're a good person? Why don't you tell the doctor, 2 weeks, I can't wait to go to heaven. Can you please make it 1 week? If your mother is a very good, beautiful woman. She's done lots of good and kindness in this world. They shouldn't be afraid of death at all. The death, if you've got an old car, you've had it for 10, 20 years, and someone offered you a new car, a new model, wouldn't you actually accept it? I don't know how old your mum is, but her body, her car is pretty old. Can you exchange it for a better model? So that's what rebirth is like. So anyway, arguments like that make her look at death in a different way. I'm not going to finish all of these questions, so please excuse me, but we have the story, which I thought would nice one to end with, of this old man and old woman, the husband and wife. They've been together for years. And then when one of them died, the other one died only a few days later. So they appeared in heaven together. And the angel told them, you've both been very kind, good people, very generous, very pure, helping so many people. So I've come to show you your heavenly reward. And it showed this amazing mansion next to the cliff. Beautiful views, so many rooms, all luxurious. And they said, because of your good karma, this is your heavenly reward. And the man took one look at it and said, that's a very nice house, but I can't afford the council rates. You have rates here in Hong Kong. The bigger the house, the more expensive. So someone like me can't afford this. And the heavenly being said, look, this is heaven. We don't have governments up here. It's all for free. You don't have to pay anything, just enjoy. So I took him inside the heavenly mansion. And there were so many rooms. In this life, he liked to watch the soccer, the Premier League. And there was this huge TV screen, about 10 times the size I've seen in any person's house. And he said, you can watch this TV in this huge screen anytime you like. He was a supporter of Liverpool. He said, because this is heaven, Liverpool will always win. And he saw the chandeliers with Waterford crystal. They took him into the bathroom, said, look at these toilets, solid gold toilets. And when he pressed the button to flush it, water never came out, but Chanel number 5. And he said, look, there's so much expensive stuff in this mansion. I can't afford the insurance. The heavenly being said, sir, there's no insurance. There's no burglars can come up to heaven. And second, anything which you want changed, just let me know and I'll change it immediately for you. Then he took them to downstairs was the garage. It's a triple garage. And the first car they saw down there was this stretch limousine. It was so big, they even had a swimming pool in the back. The next one was one of these SUVs, so powerful, could go anywhere. So this car is so powerful, it can not only cross water, it can go up waterfalls. And the last car was a limited edition Bugatti, one of the fastest cars in the world. He said, we knew before, even when you were old, you would always look in the magazines for this fast sports car, but you could never afford one. So we decided to give you this really amazingly fast sports car for your fun. And he said, but, what's the point of having a fast car? In Hong Kong, there's too many police around. You'd always get sort of fined for speeding. And the heavenly being said, sir, there's no police up in heaven. You can go as fast as you like. And if you crash your car, what's the problem? You're already dead. And then he opened the car, they opened the garage door. On the opposite side of the road was this immaculate 18-hole golf course. He said, we knew how much you enjoyed playing golf in your previous life. So when Tiger Woods had that car accident after he had an argument with his wife, we made sure he had a near-death experience, came up to heaven and designed this golf course for you. And on this golf course, whichever way, once you get the ball on the green, whichever way you putt it, it always goes in. It's heaven. We don't want to frustrate people. And he looked at that golf course and the clubhouse, said, that is very elite golf course. I don't think I have enough contacts and certainly not enough money to join that golf club. And one last time the angel rolled his eyes and said, sir, you're already a member. Not a life member, a death member. Enjoy. And then the angel left them. And as soon as the angel left them, the husband got very angry. He started shouting at his wife, scolding her and getting so upset at her. And when he had a time to take a breath, he said, why are you angry? You got this beautiful house. You got your big full screen TV where Liverpool always win. And you've got your fast car. You can drive however much you want. And we got the golf course on the opposite side of the road. You're a life member. Why are you so angry at me? This is also ties up to what anger is and why we get angry. And the husband said, because wife. Because wife. If it wasn't for all that health food you gave me, I could have been up here years ago. Do you take health food? You're putting off your Bugatti car, Gerald. You're putting off, who likes playing golf? So anyway, that's a nice, funny story. Why are we afraid of death? When for many of us, you'll have a wonderful time after you die. When it happens, let it happen. Dying is unpleasant. You know, the pain or the being in hospital for such a long time. But actually the death is pleasant. Okay, so sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So thank you for those who asked the questions. There's still a few left, but we're trying, not more than a few, quite a lot. But nevertheless, if I don't answer them tomorrow, I will answer them in your next life. I think that's what you meant. We meet each other because we owe each other. And I think last lifetime I didn't answer all the questions, so I have to come back again to answer them in this lifetime. Thank you again. Those who want to meditate, please carry on. They close up. Where's Della? They close up at 10 or 10:30? 10:30, okay. Have a nice evening. See you tomorrow morning.